Hello and welcome to the club. I'm your host, Mars, and this is the third installment of Stoppage Time, the Upper 90 Club's Evergreen content series that includes storytelling and interviews surrounding the Columbus Crew. For this segment, Ben, Trey, Haas, and I sit down with Tyler Phillips, the manager of supporter relations for the Columbus Crew. We learn about Tyler's history, how he got involved with the crew, how he became a fan of the crew, and how he kind of guerrilla warfared his way into this new awesome role with the team and is doing great work for both the ownership side and the supporter side. So without further ado, let's jump right in. We are here with our second installment of Stoppage Time. We're with Ty Phillips, the manager of supporter relations for the Columbus Crew. Really excited to have him with us. Feel privileged to have his insight and learn a little bit about him, and also his role with the crew. I think some of the guys here, Ben, Trey, and Haas are also on. Have played some soccer with him, but without further ado, Ty, welcome to the club.
Hey, appreciate you guys having me. I'm excited to dive into all the things. So let's do this.
Yeah. So, kind of tell us how your backstory and how you got, how you ended up where you are. I kind of gave away where you are today, but how'd you end up here?
Well, that in itself is kind of a story. I was actually, when I was younger, I always imagined that I'd either play sports or work in sports. And what's funny about it is that I thought the working in sports was going to be like as an agent or a lawyer or some sort. I went to school for sports management and fashion design randomly, like two completely different things.
No, that makes sense. You're fresh.
I tried.
Is that like a double major situation, or like what? Was one of them a minor?
Well, the fashion was a minor, and then it just kind of ended up being actually the thing that catapulted me like really solidly into the sports space. So I came out of it. Kind of went more like the retail route at first, and then decided like I wanted to be more like hands-on in the business side, since like my sports management like side of it needed to come out. And I was working with Pursuit in the Short North, working in marketing and customer experience. And I remember during my interview, I had like a spitball moment being like, hey, like I have a cool idea. Like if you guys partner with the crew, it'd be kind of cool. And like literally he's like, dude, we just like put pen to paper on a deal with them, and at this point like you're going to be the one to kick it off. And I had no idea. It just made sense to me. So I got to do the best of both worlds. I worked obviously in marketing and business, and still kept fashion and soccer together. That year was wild because we actually kicked off the partnership in 17. Like I'm pretty sure the way it worked out was we were going to kick off and then they announced it, and we had to scrap everything because we had all this like narrative about Columbus being home and this is the place to be and how supportive the club is of the city. And it all just got blown to pieces once we find out that the team was potentially going to leave. And I remember sitting there and thinking like, well, we've done all this work. We've made all these suits for one. We have all these relationships. Like, how do we still make good on all of our contract work, but also how do we still do something that's genuine in us? And we decided to pivot that we would tell the stories of the individuals within the team and not necessarily the team itself. And I think that was my first time, I think, being truly introduced to Crew Nation. Like, real talk, I've been around since the beginning, but I'm very quiet. So no one knew who I was at all. And then 2017, you start to see my face a lot more, just around the team. I had known a couple of the guys for a while. I had known Will Trapp and Hector and Justin prior to Pursuit. And obviously getting to work with them every day, you're just with them. And going through that whole experience, seeing the ins and outs, but also learning how to navigate a very tough decision. It was like something that helped me realize is the space I want to be in. Working at Pursuit also took me into the entertainment world. A bunch of our clients at the time were like, we had Bon Iver for like 2 or 3 years. Our boys camp, which technically they still have a relationship with camp, and so do I. Low, Trampled by Turtles. I feel like there's I'm missing somebody. Dom Deshawn, Corey Parks.
That's crazy. So you're talking about Pursuit, right?
Yeah. All this stuff was ran through Pursuit.
So like what is an arrangement like, what's your role, working with a band, or, are you, I don't need to expand on the question, right? Like, tell me about it.
So in my role, it was ideation and execution, all of it. You're pretty much figuring out how can you tell the story of said brand, entity, band, anything. You're trying to figure out how do you tell their story in conjunction with yours, and how do you both amplify each other's stories through in-person activation, digital, even just like, it sounds weird, but like customer path within your store. Like when you come in, what are you going to see first? What takes you around the corner? All that stuff is what I had to help out with. From there, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt. I guess I'm asking, like, so if in an arrangement with like a band, are you creating you're telling their story with apparel and then making that available to retail customers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that based off of music you like, or just relationships you were able to develop, or both?
Mixture of both. Like I happen to like all the bands. I have a very eclectic music taste, so I'm all over the place. But thankfully, like I'm a big relational person. So it could be like meeting one person one time and all of a sudden like we can find synergy. For example, after the music stuff, I met a producer who worked for Scout Productions, the team who does Queer Eye for Netflix, and just started talking, and we figured out a way to like be in the pilot of one of their spin-off shows. So I've like met all of the Queer Eye guys and the creator of Queer Eye, and learning how to even like navigate that space, the TV space, has been really cool. So all that to say, with all of this managing and navigating people, when the rebrand happened, the Nordica and I had already been working on a couple of projects. I was working with their board, and they asked me to be a part of the meeting with ownership in the Nordica. And in that meeting, I was able to kind of, like talk to both sides. Originally, I thought I was just going to show up and like not say much of anything. But I ended up getting to talk quite a bit, and I articulated to ownership like where the misses were, but I was also able to articulate within the same conversation of like, I get why a rebrand is happening, and kind of putting it in like layman's terms. And from that, they kind of asked like what I consider being like the liaison position that they originally championed. They're like, we're going to hire a liaison off of all this. And I actually said no the first time. I didn't want to. The scope of it was really small. Like it was literally just taking messages from like the Nordica to front office and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I was having, I would say, a little more fun. At the time, I was actually like starting to do some consulting and stuff. And I think I got hired in August. I think it was like the beginning of August. I finally was like, I'll try for it, but I would like to kind of give my own spin and kind of show the scope that I can operate. And I interviewed with literally everybody. It was actually one of the longer interview processes I've ever done. I think I had 7 or 8 interviews.
That sounds terrible.
It was it was fun. It was like everybody from like my colleagues to my direct report to ownership to at the time Bez and Steve Lyons, like literally everybody I had sit downs with. And JW, I believe, was my final interview.
Tell us about the things that you added to the description that bought you in, or how did you craft the role to meet your interest?
So again, I'm a storyteller at heart, and I am a very relational person. And for me, as a child of this city, who's always loved the Crew and loved the game of soccer, I recognize the vehicle that soccer is, and how this quote unquote rebirth was an opportunity to help kind of like push forward initiatives, bring community together through the sport. So it wasn't just, I want to come over here and like, let's make sure that all the chants sound good. You know what I mean? Like it was really for me just to be like, how can I use soccer to tell different stories? And I kind of brought that together, had like a whole 1 year, 5 year, 10 year kind of approach to how this vehicle can tell different stories throughout. And I also wrapped in just with like the World Cup in 2026, like how do you take that that like lens and apply it to everything. And I think it just kind of worked. They just realized that I was looking more than just, oh my God, I'm working for the crew.
Yeah.
It was, how can I bring this all holistic? So
Yeah, I got a question. So did they like meet you and they go, oh, we need to create a position for you? Or did they have that position kind of like already thought out and they're like, all right, we're interviewing people for it? Because it sounds like the way you're talking that they met you and they're like, oh, this guy rules and he can do all this stuff and he has this vision. Like what can, with you in mind, did they just create this job so you can operate in this space and do these things to take the crew to the next level? Because I'd be interested to, because I got the vibe that you met them and they're like, yo, come work for us. This is your job. Now we're making this up because you rip.
So first of all, it's flattering. It's a yes and no to that question. So out of that meeting, one of the things that both sides had agreed to, Nordica and ownership, they had pledged to like hire a liaison. So that was already baked in pretty much.
Okay.
When they originally started doing that, I actually kind of helped like pull some candidates. I was like, yeah, you should talk to this person. You should do that, this person. Because I didn't put my hat in the ring. But then when I finally decided to interview, that was when I was like, I'm going to bring a whole presentation. I'm going to bring a different kind of lens look to it. And then it was like, okay, cool. He does know what he's talking about. Like to this day, I remember one of my interviews, someone was like, everyone's talking about you, but I don't get it just from like, I've not really heard of you. You've not like worked traditionally in sports. So like, I need to get it. And after 10 minutes, he was like, okay, I get it. Like,
yeah,
you obviously like get the position, you get where this is going, and you get the Nordica, you get the sports space, you get soccer in general. He's like, it makes sense now. So it was after like, I guess like getting the role, it was more, I was able to help shape like where my scope would fall. And it's still evolving to this day. It's honestly, it's a lot bigger than it first started. So I enjoy it.
Yeah. Every time I text you, you're in a different nation or state. I'm like, hey, you want to hang out? You're like, no, I'm in England. I'm trying to learn how they do things over here. I'm like, well, that's cool. What about next week? You're like, yeah, I'm free. And then I'll call you. And you're like, yeah, I don't know. I just got on a plane to DC and I'm watching the women's final. It's crazy here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in the suburbs. So, all right, see you. Bye.
It is wild. It is absolutely wild. I can be honest to say that I didn't expect it to take me where it's taken me, but it's been great.
So you said that you've been in the role for a little over a year. What are some of the highlights so far?
Oof. I've got a list. Let's do like top 5. So one, this sounds silly, but my first game was actually Hell is Real at home. And I think it was actually the best possible scenario because I also have a lot of like game day presentation work, and that is easily the most like blown up game that we do. So it was the epitome of being thrown in the deep end. So every game since then has seemed like, I got this. This is great.
Yeah.
But that was a really cool moment, being just like, I'm here. This is happening. The USA Costa Rica qualifier was really cool. First of all, it was nice to see like people I hadn't seen in a while, like Coach Greg and Zach. That was just sort of like a really cool moment, and also just like seeing that like the stage is now even set to a different level now in Columbus. This year, MLS All-Star Game, I was in Minnesota.
Question on that.
Oh, yeah.
What was that? Because I remember texting you, because we all showed up to the game, and I remember like you were down on the field and they announced you as like the U.S., something. And I was like, that guy just went from the crew to the U.S. And I'm like, is he going to be the next president? Like it seemed like it went from 0 to 100. And I was like, what are you? And I like took a picture of you next to like the girl DJing on the field. I'm like, what is happening? So what were you? What was that? I was so confused.
Yeah. So U.S. Soccer was, when they had their qualifying, they would pick like an ambassador from each city to be a person that was either forwarding the game through community and this, that, and the other. I found out once I started working that they'd actually already nominated before I came onto the role. And I guess they ended up choosing me. And then so when I like called about it, and I was like, do you guys know I work here? And they're like, oh, we didn't know you worked here, but you can still be this person. So that's what it was. So I was low key working, and then I had to like run at halftime to do that. Yeah, I was working the game because I was working with AO and the like two of their marketing people and the match production person, because there's a little bit more of a show at that point. And then it was like, okay, you got to run to halftime and do the waving and stuff. I was like, okay. So that's what it was. It was just a community spotlight thing.
That's fantastic. That was awesome.
It was wild.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Number 4 would be MLS All-Star Game. The reason for that was great because I low-key was doing like 3 different things while I was there. So I was doing intel work for the crew. Like we always do like a best practices and kind of like stadium tours and stuff like that. I was also like getting to meet a lot of the DE&I individuals that I work with for the league. So there was a whole presentation with that because MLS is now doing this like kind of series of like celebrating people in each city that they do these events and that are working for equality and equity and all of the above. So I was doing that, and then I also was on the ground with 2 Cents FC, helping them tell just different stories. Like we shot so much content that entire week. I think my days would start at 6 a.m. about, and it would end at like 11:30. Like the joke was at one point that like Tyler is here, but he's not present. He's literally just working the entire time. Like all the other outlets like Boardroom and Yahoo, ESPN, Forbes, like we were with them, and I never got to see them until like the very end of the night. They would see all my other guys, but I was just running around. But I had an absolute blast. Like so that was one of my favorites. And then the last 5th one will be Campeones Cup, because for me, that game was so interesting from a crew fan perspective. There wasn't a lot of us there. Like the Nordeca wasn't even full.
Yeah.
But we had this like unique energy that I haven't seen since then. And we were kind of outnumbered because there were a ton of Cruz Azul fans.
So many.
Like a ton.
They were in the Nordic.
Yeah. So working that match was a lot of fun. Those would be some of my top memories. And then an overarching like thing is just kind of working through this Nordeca and Columbus Crew relationship. I think it's been an honor to be in the position that I get to kind of help navigate that and seeing from where it came to where it's at now and where it's going to go. That I'll always take as like one of my top highlights.
So can you tell me who your points of contact are for the Nordeca? I mean, I told you I moved out of town. I've been to a handful of games since I left in Columbus, but what does that landscape look like, and who do you represent on the supporter side?
So the way this kind of works is I do have to have contact with the board itself, first of all. They're the ones who kind of like aggregate everything and make decisions on it. I also work with the Capos, which just recently, like that group came underneath the Nordeca. And then, I mean, there's a myriad of individuals just because I was friends with a ton of Nordeca people that I also help do things with. Like they just launched the fan council, and I'll kind of come alongside that. Like I won't be hosting those meetings per se, but I'll be around it. So predominantly though, it is the board. It is the board, and I work hand in hand with all those individuals in their respective roles.
I guess I'm just like, yeah, I mean, what are the groups, or what is the makeup of the Nordeca board? You know, who has an interest in that entity?
So it's pretty much broken down into like how fans will experience the game. So you've got match day experience, you've got community, you've got partnerships, you've got their communications person, their merch person, and I think Tifo Sweat is also on that board.
Yeah.
So all those individuals have their own little teams, and so pretty much anything that Nordeca touches, there's an individual that represents them, and I like to meet with them at least once a month in a formal stance. Sometimes it is like the entire front office, or at least heads of front office with them, and sometimes it is just me and them. But we make sure that we like figure out like what's going on in real time, and then a lot of them have, you know, we talk outside of those meetings, and there's a lot of things that happen in real time that you have to be able to like navigate. So I have open communication with all of them. The fan council is new, so I haven't had a lot of interaction with them. I've kind of helped with some of the like policies and protocols that they're running through. Like, but beyond that, 2023 will be my first time really hanging out with them. And then the Capos is more so like kind of help improve that side of the match day experience.
So you mentioned being an old timer fan, whether you were, out front or not.
Because you look young and you've got all your hair.
So what was your, before you put the credentials on, what was your game day experience?
So funny, when I was a child, it would always mean like, going early, playing in the plaza. I usually played a lot of just like the kick arounds and play. But when I became a working adult, 90% of the time I was like getting to the game about 15 or 30 minutes into it because of just work. Even when I was a pursuit, I kind of didn't get to games early. I would always be doing something. So I would miss a lot of the tailgates or a lot of the shenanigans that people got into. I generally would like to start on one side of the stadium. Like I would start in the south end, and then I would always have the second half in Nordeca.
Started in the upper 90 club?
Sometimes. That's serious. Sometimes. I'm not even kidding, because I'll go get a beer and hang out with some people on the little little deck out there, and then hop down. Yeah. So yeah, that was generally it. I wish I had more stories of like the tailgate and stuff, but like I was infamous for never being able to do them. A lot of my friends would be like, actually funny tidbit. 90% of my adult life, I'm either like coming straight from work, or shenanigans have progressed to I have to be the savior, so I don't get to drink. So for a very long time, a lot of my friends could probably name one time they've seen me actually drink. So that carried over into crew as well.
Yeah, I think it was the crew 2 final. It's like I text you or something like that. We were all hanging out. All of a sudden, I see you, and you have like the full headset, and you ran from the field, and you were doing like 3 different things.
Yeah, exactly what it was.
Bye. Like you're the busiest person. Yeah. So I pulled up the Nordeca, which is weird. So for the people who don't know that much about the Nordeca or just think it's like where people sit, there actually is a merchandise director, a communications director, match day operations director, a match day experience director, a partnership director, a community director, a creative director, a travel director, a chairperson who just does chairs. So, I mean, it's more than just like where people sit. It's like a whole thing.
And so the fan council is something in addition to that now?
Yeah.
Yes, to Ben's point, and yes, to Ha's point. The fan council is actually supposed to be indicative of all fans and not just fans that sit in the section. So, I mean, a lot of this is kind of trickled down from the rebrand. The fans want to make sure that their voice is heard. So, like, a part of my job is making sure to facilitate that. And the fan council is actually taking voices from all around the stadium. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting in the suites or in the south side. The whole fan experience should be made by all the fans and not just one group. So that's where that's coming from.
You're in the role now. You are now a tool at work for these two groups. How do you feel about how things have gone so far from a mission and vision standpoint?
I'm going to say something that sounds like very unlike me, because I'm going to be very, very confident in this moment. I'm actually like killing it. And I say that because like I haven't owned that.
Yeah, boy.
I haven't owned that. I had to learn very early on just in my career that not everybody's going to love what you do. So I don't chase people's approval in that sense. I chase just making sure that the objectives are done. And no matter what, I set out a couple of things in my, 1 year, 5 year, 10-year plan. And I was actually talking to one of my colleagues, like I brought it up and I was like, whoa, I actually have done like all the first year things. Almost all of the 5-year things are already either in motion or started. I'm actually achieving the things I said I was going to do. I have the support of, my bosses, ownership as well, to do a lot of cool things. And I'm really excited to kind of like help bring them to life. I feel bad because there is a point of where some people think things aren't moving fast enough, or they're not seeing the results that they want to see, but not just realizing just like kind of how it works behind the scenes. Like there's things that I will do this year that I literally started in 2021 that will finally come to life. So I feel blessed that I have a great team that supports these things and have been patient. And to be honest, I think I'm doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to have some haters. I have haters, you know.
Yep.
I actually made a joke a couple days ago, like,
Name them.
the
Tell
fans
me
go
their
back
names.
and forth. I will name the haters. No, I just feel like I know when people are not happy with me or with the team or by proxy everybody, and I know exactly when people are unhappy with me as an individual. But you know, you kind of rock and roll with it and keep your eye on the prize and go from there.
You know, I think that your role is so important for the crew and any sports team. I'm sure you could make the same argument, but like, you know, being in Columbus, I was always in the music scene, and I think that there's some close analogs between what I felt in the music scene as what I felt as a crew fan, and that is that, you know, a lot of people being set in their ways or judgment or holier than thou kind of attitude, where I think that having someone, you know, not a necessarily truly neutral party, but someone who's focusing on the interests of both the fans and the club, can maybe soften some of those edges and bring everybody together, you know, because that's, you know, we talk a little trash, or, you know, mostly in frustration, after the, you know, 17th late draw of the season, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, you know, I think some of those attitudes and some of those comments can turn toxic, and then it becomes unfounded. And I think that having a voice of reason and someone to show the fans that the club is listening, right? And then also have someone to speak on behalf of the fans to the club and put it in the fans' words and be a true liaison, I think is so important. So I think you're doing a great job.
It's funny because when I was saying earlier, like, you know, I can't please everybody, right? But I'm still intentional to kind of like elevate the entire group as much as I possibly can. And you said something earlier that kind of stood out when you're talking about how people are so used to the way things are. That's honestly where I get a lot of like the friction is trying to help us move in a direction that still celebrates our like history and glorious like past, but also moves us to where we can go. Because I remember when I first started, there was a lot of like, let's do this because we did it at HCS, or let's do this because in 2012 it was fire. And the thing is, like, I'm never going to be like, oh yeah, like that totally was fire. I'm never going to discount that. Like I still to this day think like the Nordica has had heydays, you know, and it's had ups and downs. And I want to go back in a way to find the spirit of those like heydays, but I want to do it in the now. And then even with like fan experience, I think like one thing that I recognized when we opened the building was like, I think people were caught off guard at how good the life could be for a crew fan, because we weren't accustomed to that.
For sure.
So in that, there's this like disconnect, because you've had for so long your idea of what it means to be a crew fan, right? But you almost feel like, why am I being pushed in this new direction? Like I want to do X, Y, and Z. I think it's, how do you embrace who you are and what you love, right, about the club, but how do you bring it with you into this new phase? So that's where like I've gotten some pushback, and I think for the most part, when we've stayed the course, people are like, now I see like it was worth it, or now it's being done. I mean, even silly stuff of like people wondering like why we didn't have like billboards out yet. And I think this year you finally saw the billboards starting to pop up. It's like, we want to figure out what the new tone is. Like what's the way that the brand shows up, you know what I mean? It's not just throwing a face up, you know what I mean?
Well, and it's a two-way street, isn't it? Right? Like, I mean, I'm just thinking of all the games that I saw off of 71 there, and you know, that it's an old pair of boots that fits really well, right? Because the boot changes, and and it fits the foot, right? I went to opening day at the new stadium, and I don't know how many times we talked about wishing we had a new stadium. The this is old. This, the old scoreboard kind of thing. Like
that was literally fire. Literally caught fire.
But that was on fire. Yeah. But to make the point, it was new, and I think you got to break in at some of these major new changes that are happening because we're the stadium's new to us, and we're new to the stadium and to the brand and to the owners, and I think it's natural, but the discomfort is new, right? Or the change the change in feel.
What's wild about it, I think, is that we also, there's been I think we're better with it now from a fan standpoint. We also forget like that the new experience is full of new people.
Yep.
I think we were so used to, going with the same people and seeing the same people, and everybody knew what was up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden with the new stadium and new brand and everything, you had a ton of new people coming. So it does feel different. It does feel like not the same page and X, Y, Z. And again, that's why I said the work is being done to intentionally like grab both sides and bring them together. I remember like people kind of getting upset with like how many people didn't know what was going on, or how many people didn't know the chants, or even just the fact that like the new Nordeca is like 3 times the size of the old one.
Yeah.
And you, in your head, if you're just like kind of there, you're thinking that everybody in the Nordeca is a like pure Nordecian.
Right.
But then you also like have to actually take a moment and be like, no, there's people in here who this is their first time. Literally their first time.
I actually want to touch on that too, because kind of all of us being a little bit of older fans, we all used to stand above Nordec and chant and cheer and know everything. But when you actually went to the south side of the stadium at Moffrey, you started to realize how loud Nordec wasn't at times. And sometimes you just wanted to pull people out of the Nordeca and be like, you don't realize how loud you're not. Like, you're yelling and screaming in a vacuum down there. Like, it can be so much better. And I think that's really, what'd you say, Matt?
I said no roof on the building.
Yeah. Well, but
it makes a huge difference now.
But having new ideas, having a bigger Nordeca, having new breath brought into it, capos, better tifo, just everything being more coordinated has made a big impact. And sometimes, I think you had mentioned it earlier in terms of having, like, you're not trying to cause arguments and you're not trying to be disrespectful to the roots. But at the same point, it's like, man, these new ideas are good. These are awesome. Like, let's get you out of your shell. And I think like breathing that new life coming into the new stadium, and like with the rebrand and everything that happened, and kind of like your role coming into
Save the Crew.
Yeah. Like, everything has been more organic. And since that point in time, in that 17-18 time frame, it's been nothing but up, which is fantastic.
You need everybody bought in, right? I mean, I don't know that it's a slight to 1/10 of the stadium that they didn't fill the stadium with sound either, right? I mean, the games that you watch that sound great, there's cheering all the way around.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you bringing in feedback and gaining support from the fan base all the way around the field has got to contribute to building that up.
And that's one of the things you said earlier that like also resonated, because it's an actual thought that I have to remind people in meetings sometimes. I'm always, again, going to champion what we used to do, but I'm really excited about what we can do, because literally resources are different. The time age was different. The way we ingest information is different. It's what we can do that really excites me. And again, like those voices from the OGs to the new fan, they're all important. So I mean, like even this year, you'll see things that are like different, or even there's some things that will remind you of the old days, because like we've been able to take all that information and like bring it to life. Like I'm really excited about some of the things that I'll get to talk about at the summit that will start to make this place feel like home, to be honest. Because I think that was like the one thing that we all noticed is like, yes, it's a new building, but it didn't quite feel like ours yet.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a lot of things that we're working on to make that feeling come to life, which I think new and old fans will love.
Is one of those things bringing back Toto every time I leave the stadium?
So this is the weird thing. We didn't have a lot of wins this year at home, but it actually plays. It plays after the whole like when the lights go down. This thing, it does play after Wiseman. So I don't know if people didn't hear it or not, but it does play.
So what can we expect going into next year? What are some of the top 2 or 3 things that you have either rolled out late in this season, or we could expect to see next season, where we maybe didn't notice it in the last handful of games or whatever? What are some of your what are some of the things you're most excited about that you've had your hands in?
The overall match day experience is about to get a lot of shifts, a lot of positive shifts. I'm really excited to have taken a lot of the feedback that we've heard over the last 2 years to be able to tweak a lot of parts of it. Some Nordeca specific, some not. I'm really excited to see that part of it come to life. I'm really excited to see some of the cooler things we can do with even the video boards. I mean, honestly, our video team is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I honestly love watching like the show open every time. Yeah, the show open is just gnarly. I love when like they tweaked it mid-year to like the whole like Unleash the Beast thing, and just took it to like a whole different level. So like moments like that, I'm really excited for. And then honestly, I think seeing the space come to life. There are some additions and things that we will see that like you'll literally notice it with your eyes. So I think that's the best way to put it. And again, when we have our summit, I'll be able to like actually walk through some of these changes. But I'm really, really freaking stoked.
And when is that?
Right now we are in discussions of exactly when, but I can say safely before the season starts.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. We literally just had a meeting with the Nordeca last week about like potential timing. So
okay. So even dumber question, what is the summit? Like, is this a televised event? Is it just, your 2 parties? Who's involved?
The summit traditionally has been the Nordeca group meeting with the front office, kind of previewing the season. Last year, I kind of took it a little different and opened it up to people who just sit in the section. And I think that's kind of the world we want to keep it in. Like, because if you're a Nordeca member or just a person that sits in Nordeca, you like to know what's going on. We did have it streamed last year, which was really cool because we had the COVID situation. So we had it streaming. It's actually, I think, still low-key live. But it was actually a really good tool to be able to use that. And it was, it's a tool that kind of sets the tone for the year. It kind of talks about some of the objectives that we want to accomplish. It talks about some of the goals that the Nordeca themselves want to bring to life. And then we kind of just have an open dialogue about what that looks like and what we plan to celebrate throughout the year.
It sounds awesome. I will anoint myself the expat representative here and just say that all remote streamed access is greatly appreciated. I'll also tie this to our last Stoppage Time segment that we did, where I learned that many, if not most, of the Discord members are remote Crew fans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as our people disperse, having the opportunity to be involved remotely is awesome. So that's my piece.
I appreciate that and love that. And that's the reason that we do what we do in that space. We want it to be enjoyed by all Crew fans. I mean, I talked to a guy last year who's a Crew fan, lives in Vegas, and has never been to a game.
That's crazy.
Awesome.
So yeah, we want to make sure that we are making the experience still cool for them. That's why the Apple TV deal to me is super cool, because for the first time, like, literally doesn't matter where you're at, you can watch the game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a cool thing.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll have more from Ty when we come back. The 2023 season is upon us, and with the new year brings us a new coach, a renewed excitement for the game, and endless twists and turns throughout the season. You're a part of our club, but it's time for you to join the team by becoming a season ticket holder. Visit columbuscrew.com/tickets or call 614-447-2739 to secure your experience. Listen, real talk here, we save the Crew for a reason, right? We have the best fans in the best city in the U.S. Let's show up and prove it again. Visit columbuscrew.com/tickets online or call 614-447-2739 to secure your 2023 season tickets. See you at the game. Okay, we're back with Ty Phillips, manager of supporter relations for the Columbus Crew. Ty, what else do you have going on?
Quite a bit, to be honest. So outside of the Crew, I still am pretty active in the soccer space. I actually kind of head, along with 3 others, 2 Cents FC, which is a Black-run media company that tells soccer stories from the Black and brown communities and just minorities overall. We look to celebrate and elevate those voices and their journeys, and it looks all different types of ways. We have podcasts that we do. We have video series. We have in-person activations. We are pretty mobile because we're all over the U.S. I am the only one in Ohio. A couple in Atlanta. A couple in L.A. We had somebody in Seattle, but I think she just moved to L.A. too. There's a bunch in New York, Richmond. Where's there? Miami.
And what's your role in the group? Were you a founder?
I'm not a founder. I am a leader. So the co-founder, I guess, recently made me like one of the leaders. So I assist with like really a bunch of the communication game, just because I live in that space and I can help us navigate it, but also content strategy, partnership alignment, so honestly, brand integration. I work with all that for 2 Cents FC. So.
I thought I saw the podcast was just short of 100 episodes, about to hit 100.
It's about to hit 100. It's about to hit 100, and I'm very excited. And I'm never on it. I'm like on like maybe 2 episodes, if that. I think
I understand that from a high level. What can you share, like what a specific example of one of those stories would be, or like, you know, how you slice and dice that space?
Yeah. So the how is real quick before we tell like what stories we would tell. We have several different groups that help us tell the story. So FTC is kind of like our round table. FTC is for the culture. They're like our round table approach. The 2 Cents FC show is like our get to know the subject, you know, 1v1 interview style. Shea Butter FC is our 2 Black women's take on WOSO. So all things women's soccer. They are some of the most brilliant individuals we know and work with. Then we have a history show, which is Can I Kick It? So it's like Black history in soccer. And then we just brought a new one on, and they're going to be so mad at me because I can't remember the name of it. But this is really dope professor. He actually is a part of the Black Herons in Miami. And he now has a podcast on our show. We also have, I think there's like a sports business one. And I know I'm missing another one. So someone will get mad at me. So I apologize, 2 Cents guys. But so what it is, like all those have their own lanes, and then we insert them into the appropriate space. Like when we did the NWSL final, we literally had the Shea Butter team plus some there. We did MLS All-Star. It was like the 2 Cents FC show was there. I'm pretty sure we had some stuff on the ground for the Henny Cup, and one of our guys is a Richmond guy. So we told those stories. We're also pretty mobile in the sense of like we can be on location. Like we shot a really cool project. That's what I'll call it. Randomly in June, and we just went to Atlanta and shot some really cool stuff. So it just depends on like where we're at. We're looking to do stuff, and then outside of that, I think like one of my funnest. That is not a word. One of my most fond memories was in 2021. We went to Detroit and worked with for Soccer Ventures and Black Star, and did a really cool in-person activation. Led a panel, hosted like a elite showcase and community. I want to say a community, like I don't want to say picnic, but like small business owners, vendors. It was just a really celebration of soccer. Around DCFC, and like we help pull that off, and it's just making sure that we're able to tell the stories about our people and others in the way that's relatable to them. I mean, we know this. Soccer is not generally the first choice sport for a lot of African Americans in the U.S. Yes, it's a global sport, and people of color play it across the world, but in the U.S. we don't, and it's right. And it's a myriad of reasons for that. You know, a lot a lot of it comes down to that we haven't seen soccer as a pathway. Sports is generally seen as a pathway out or to different destinations for the Black community. So we see football as a way to, the league, or basketball as a way to, you make it, you get there, you've supported your family, your city, or whatever. Soccer's not seen that way. And it's also, we deal with a lot of the, I'll say, roadblocks of access to the game. So we don't have the experience that a lot of people do. And for me, I'm very passionate about making the sport something that's more accessible for the kid who wants to be a part of it. Like when I was young, I was the only one in it that I knew looked like me. I didn't really get to even know the players really until I started watching the sport. Like Jeff Cunningham's like a huge hero of mine. Like that's my guy.
Yeah.
DeMarcus Beasley, that was the guy who inspired me to actually want to play, because he was built like me and he's doing really well. And it's so weird that like now I'm like working with him in a way. It's like, it's a really weird, like full circle thing for me. Like this year I got to interview Kobe Jones and then play soccer with him.
That's crazy.
Those are the moments that I want to be able to like provide for another child someday. And with the World coming in 2026, we know that the game is going to be in our faces, but what's the sentiment toward it? How are we actually like ready to engage it from our community? And that's what 2 Cents FC is. We are making sure that those doors are open for those interested, and even the ones that really aren't. We're trying to engage individuals around the sport that are voices in the mainstream world, and then bringing them into soccer as well. So it's a really cool thing, and it's a passion project, but it is actual work.
Well, it sounds it sounds like there's a lot of channels for outlet there. Can you plug some of the ways that all could be consumed? And
Twitter is where we honestly do the most. So 2 Cents FC, SBFC. Sorry, at all these things. So at SBFC, at 2 Cents FC, at FTCUTD for the culture. Can I kick it? Everybody's on Twitter. All of their podcasts can be downloaded wherever you listen to podcasts, so Spotify, Apple, and then also 2centsfc.com.
And it's with the number 2, right? Not spelled out.
Yes. 2 Cents FC. The website actually got an overhaul early this year. You're going to see a lot more coming out of that as well. Like this year at All-Star, we realized we have a lot of unique relationships. Like one of our co-hosts, Amobia Kugo, played in the league, so he knows everybody. I work in the league, so I know quite a few individuals. We're able to help these players tell their stories in a more genuine way. Like, I don't know, this is kind of a small tidbit. All of us are familiar with Darlington Nagbe, and like he's like infamous for like having very like straightforward interviews.
Yeah.
And like I had talked to him earlier in the year, and I was like, dude, like we want to like have you on at some point. Moby wants to talk to you. They played together. And that interview was like one of the most like complete, like the more, how should I say, the side I'm used to seeing in Darlington, like day to day, that was him on that podcast. And it's like really cool to see like humans like that just be themselves because they're like comfortable with us. So really excited. We got to talk to all the 3 Black goalkeepers at MLS All-Stars. So Sean Johnson, Andre Blake, and Dane. And it's cool to see like all 3 of them had the years they had. Andre was so close to winning MLS Cup, that was the nuts. Sean is now going to the World Cup final, World Cup final. He's going to the World Cup, and so is Dane St. Clair. Like he's also going for Canada. So it's neat to like see these individuals, and we can celebrate their stories, but also tell them at the same time.
I think they call it the World Cup final
in Philly. Yep,
don't they?
Yeah,
they do the finals.
Yeah,
they
right.
Say that.
It's
they do.
The whole tournament is the final.
Yeah. You can tell I've been looking at a lot of just like press releases and everything. Like
I thought you were just watching Philadelphia news, like where they're like,
oh right, yeah. I don't know if you saw that, but we had that going around. They said the MLS Cup,
MLS World Cup,
the MLS World Cup.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, that is what I'm doing there. And obviously outside of that, I mean, attempting to get back on the field. That's the one thing with all these things going on, I don't get to play as often. And I think like Ben sees it sometimes. I get so frustrated with like, I'm not old enough yet to where I should be like managing like my body in this way that like, oh, don't get hurt. But I'm also like not playing enough to where I can tell I'm like a step behind. And it's the most frustrating thing.
I thought you were gonna say you're not old enough to be managing.
Yeah.
And it's like he's like, all right, well, give me a clipboard.
No, it's like I know I can still like physically do what I want to do.
Right.
Like I get a lot. It was funny when we play. A lot of people think I'm a lot younger than I am just by the way I play.
Yep.
But I'm thankful for that, and I want to get back out there and play more. And I'm traveling a little bit, trying to do some travel for myself. Yes, love fashion, dabbling into some things. I want to go to a couple of shows this year. I've helped collab on some collections, and there's some really cool stuff happening in the space with the intersection of fashion and soccer, which I'm really excited about. Like I've met some really cool individuals in that space. I mean, even like everybody from like Zach and Alex with their voice now. The guys who made these, hold on, he's gonna be so mad I forget the name of it, but we met these guys in Minnesota that were working with Avery Jennison and MLS to make a special collaboration. Is it Live Life Football? I think that's what it is. Like they have a really cool line. So I'm like doing some really just like really cool fashion stuff and just wanting to be around it. And
That's awesome. Can you please design jerseys?
so you want to hear something really funny? Really cool. So when I first started, one of my first things was to kind of like start some focus groups for the jerseys because we work in 2-year cycles. And it's really neat seeing the things that were brought up in the conversations about, like, say, what will be the 2024 jersey start to come to life. Actually, my first week, I actually tried on the 2023 jersey. Like my first week on the job, I tried on the 2023 jersey.
Should we be excited?
For 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Now, I didn't mean to say that so casually. Like, I really like it, but I'm really excited for the one and 24 because I think you'll get to see, like, full expression come to life. But I do like 23, returning to our roots a bit. I know everyone knows this, so it's not like I'm saying anything crazy, but like the white is at the end of his jersey, so we're going back to the black. Pretty excited about it.
Really excited about it.
Yes, I do get to help out. With those processes.
I know Trey wants to ask this, so I'll ask it for him. Are we going to see a sash? Are we going to sash it up?
Are we getting collars?
I feel like I'm not allowed to talk about details.
No,
Okay.
no, you're Ben's. Yeah. We're not pressing details.
If there was a collar, would there be a collar pop mandate?
Am I allowed to say? I don't know why I'm asking. There will be some unique elements. There's unique elements that I think.
Unique elements.
I'm always excited for a new crew jersey.
Like a scoop neck.
Hey, I wear a scoop neck tee sometimes. I have this sweater. This is scoop neck. It's one of my favorite scoop neck tees. So it's a thing. Not in the jerseys, but
not in the jerseys. No.
Yeah, I think there'll be some details that people will like.
If you're chasing clicks, Cucho got a lot of attention with his tracker bra.
Yeah.
And so maybe if there was just a jersey that was the bra.
The tracker that every player wears.
Can we go skins?
Which made me laugh was that, like, I didn't realize that was such a thing that people didn't know about. Because again, I'm so in it, I see them all the time.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of college players see him and stuff. But I remember when he took off his shirt and then when they're like, "Why is this dude wearing a sports bra?" And I was like, "He's not
tracker."
And I was like, You know what? I guess you wouldn't see it because we have low key cut down the shirt taking off.
Yeah.
Back in 2002, it was everybody was taking shirts off.
Yeah,
but,
Mardi Gras.
Yeah, but yeah, I always forget about that. So hey, we'll see some cool things.
So how are you involved in the music scene, Ty?
So growing up, played music, piano, keys, I guess, keys, bass, and guitar. Being homeschooled, which fun fact, a lot of people didn't know that. I knew a lot of humans that were also homeschooled. That are also musicians, and we came up in the time when alt rock / screamo was a thing, and all the bands from Ohio were like, "We about to be this band."
Yeah.
So you had the Devil Wears Prada coming up. One of my favorites, which I feel like people forget about, like this individual is dead serious, one of the best at what he does in his new career, but Dead Poetic.
Yeah.
Back in the day was my jam, and now Brandon Reich is like a graphic designer and creative genius.
I remember that band.
I saw them at least 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Blindside was the band that I loved a lot.
Wow.
Obviously, Under Oath was like big and come back. Which you know that whole like when we were young tour that came out.
Yeah.
How do you have that whole set and not have Under Oath come through? Like, how do you brought back everybody? You don't have Under Oath play a single song? Fail. So so because of that, like a lot of the guys around here, obviously now a lot of them are signed. A lot of them are still going at it, and I still talk to everybody from time to time, and I just enjoy that music. I think that's like where my heart is. I love like screamo alternative rock, but I'm here, there, everywhere.
So where were you playing, or where were you seeing shows?
So I refuse to play shows because I actually have stage fright. I told you, I'm actually a really shy person. Like,
Which is crazy.
Growing up, I had stage fright. Yeah, I had stage fright a lot. So I like even freaking recitals would not do them. I had times where people were like, let's do the band thing. I was like, I'll record. I don't want to know. So, but going to see shows, I mean, I did everything from like Rumba to the Basement. There was a place out in Dayton, little like hole in the wall.
No.
Like,
Owl?
what?
Night Owl?
Was it
No.
not in Dayton? Was it where the skate park was in Kettering?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kettering
Yes.
place. All right, so I saw Darkest Hour there, but that place was called, oh my God, I was just talking about this like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I can't remember.
That's a big place. It's like the size of,
Rumba.
Rumba. So Rumba's where I always play.
I love Rumba. I saw Me Without You there one year, and that was still one of my top shows I've ever seen. I love Me Without You. That is one of my favorite bands. So again, like I don't say that one often because no one knows who they are. But yeah, man, I would just honestly just either jam with friends, but I just be at the shows, and that's why, like I said,
It's better that way anyway.
Yeah,
it's better.
it is.
Like you don't have to haul the gear and promote and all that stuff. You know, you just buy a 6-pack.
I tell people all the time the life of being in a band is you see the product of being on stage, but it's a grind.
Well, I can't thank you enough for taking some time with us tonight, and I hope that you'll come back as new developments come together with the club. But it's been great meeting you personally. I know that you know these guys from playing, but I appreciate you making time, and we'll talk soon. So
Thank you.
You're the best.
Thanks, Ty.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks Ben for tracking me down and making it happen. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was a journey. I did not know if it was going to happen, but made it happen.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
Go Crew.
Go.
Oh yeah, go Crew.
Yeah, go
That's
Crew.
what we say.
Go Crew.
Thanks everyone for joining the club. We hope you'll listen next week and every week, even in the off season, to celebrate or commiserate. We'll save you a seat. If you like this podcast, please give us 5 stars and subscribe. You can email us at upper90clubpod@gmail.com. That's upper90clubpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at upper90clubpod. Go Crew.
I love the test before the test. You want to do a test again?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm already counting. I'm already
Make sure you guys
counting.
feeling better. I'm having a fantastic time, especially because Ben is just suffering.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.